Callerho remembers Mythology's Deadliest Strait, the tale of Scylla and Charybdis.
Hello, I'm Callerho. I'd love to tell you about Scylla and how I came to meet her. Long before Heracles was born, before Troy's towers rose, the strait between Italy and Sicily was quiet. Fishermen whispered of a sea nymph who lived among the tide pools. Scylla, daughter of Cratyius, bright-eyed, playful, beloved by dolphins and sea winds. She was gentle and very lovely. She caught the attention of the sea god Glaucus, who offered her gifts and spoke of his love. But Scylla did not feel the same and kindly turned him away. Heartbroken, Glaucus sought Circe, goddess of sorcery, asking for her help to win Scylla's heart. But Circe, in love with Glaucus herself, told him he would be far better off with her. He refused, saying he could only love Scylla. Jealousy is a god's favorite poison. Spurned and furious, Circe poured her curse into the waters where Scylla bathed. She watched as the nymph's legs twisted into monstrous coils. Her torso split into 6 ravenous heads, her voice fractured into snarls and screams, a beast that frightened even the goddess of sorcery herself. The fishermen fled, the dolphins fled. Even the sea fled, pulling back from her cave as if afraid to touch her. Scylla learned hunger. She learned loneliness. She learned that sailors screamed when they saw her, but she never learned cruelty. Her curse did that for her. The cave she was to dwell in faced a narrow strait, shared with another cursed sea nymph sister, Charybdis. Once, Charybdis had helped her father Poseidon claim islands in his name, but Zeus, believing all land, even that surrounded by sea, belonged to him, grew furious. In his wrath, he struck Charybdis with a thunderbolt, transforming her into a monstrous whirlpool. Each time she opened her mouth, the sea itself was swallowed, dragging ships and sailors into the abyss. There was no escape. And so, those who sailed the strait faced 2 dooms: to risk the waters above Charybdis, or to pass within reach of Scylla. Generations later, Heracles came to the island of Erythea, my home, to steal the red cattle of my son Geryon. He arrived like a storm. He first killed my grandson Orthrus, the 2-headed hound his mother Echidna had sent to help her brother Geryon with the cattle. He also murdered a herdsman. I watched from the cliffs as he took the life of my son Geryon to steal the cattle. I have a story with more about that. As Heracles took the red cattle toward the strait, Scylla smelled blood long before she saw him. After I had time to gather my thoughts through my grief, I decided to pursue Heracles, hoping I would get the opportunity to have some justice. Heracles reached the narrow waters. The cliffs echoed with monstrous breathing. Scylla emerged, 6 heads snarling, driven by hunger and the scent of slaughter. She grabbed some of the cattle off the deck to satisfy her hunger. She would have considered that a sort of toll and let Heracles pass, but Heracles was not going to give up any of the cattle he himself stole. Besides, he was always looking for an excuse to kill. Heracles just laughed.
Another beast between me and my labor.
As he came towards Scylla ready for battle, Scylla lunged. Heracles met her with club and bow. 1 head shattered under the club. Another was pierced by an arrow. A 3rd was crushed against the cliff. Scylla screamed, not in rage, but in pain, in memory of the nymph she once was. Heracles struck again, and Scylla collapsed above the surf, bleeding into the tide. He left her for dead. And he continued his march, dragging the red cattle behind him. I followed Heracles' trail, the broken stones, the blood, the hoofprints of the red cattle. I crossed lands I had never seen. When I reached the strait, I found the cliffs stained with fresh battle, and I heard a faint, ragged whimper. Scylla lay half submerged, her monstrous heads limp, her true voice buried deep beneath pain. I approached slowly and said, "You fought him too." One of Scylla's heads twitched, another whimpered, a 3rd tried to snarl but only coughed blood. I knelt beside her, touching the cold stone as I spoke to her. "He took my son. He took your life. He leaves wounds wherever he walks." The sea stirred around her, recognizing its sister. I placed her hands on Scylla's central head, and the water glowed. Soft turquoise, moonlit silver, the colors I love. That's when I knew I could heal her. I stayed for a week until she was strong enough to survive on her own. The wounds closed, the broken bones knit. The monstrous heads breathed again. Scylla's true voice, the nymph's voice, whispered from deep within, "Why, help me?" I answered, "Because grief recognizes grief." Scylla lowered her heads, not in submission, but in gratitude. I rose, my robe dirty and dripping with seawater. "Live, that will be your vengeance." I wanted to continue to pursue Hercules, but I knew I was getting too weak. Being an eldest Oceanid, I was much stronger than other naiads, but I was getting too far from my life-giving waters of Erythea. The healing had weakened me further. If I didn't turn back now, I knew I might never have survived. Time passed. Heroes rose and fell. Troy burned. Odysseus, weary and clever, sailed through the same strait where Scylla had once bled. Circe warned him, "She is deathless. She cannot be fought." Odysseus saw the cliffs and felt the air tighten. He ordered his men to row hard. Scylla watched from her cave. She remembered Heracles. She remembered the care and friendship I gave her. She remembered the pain. But curses are stronger than memories. She struck. 6 men vanished into her jaws. Quick, mercifully quick. And Odysseus screamed their names into the wind. Scylla retreated, her heads dripping, her heart aching with a sorrow she could never escape. Far away, in my distant corner of the world, I closed my eyes and felt the echo of that sorrow.
Scylla lived on. Odysseus sailed on. Heracles became legend. Geryon became a story told by shepherds. But Callirhoe remembered, and Scylla remembered her. 2 beings shaped by grief, bound by a moment of compassion in a world ruled by heroes who never looked back at the lives they broke.
Thank you for watching. Callirhoe is a naiad nymph of the island Erythea. She is possibly the most mentioned in Greek mythology. Medusa was her mother-in-law and Poseidon her father-in-law. Her daughter to her first marriage was famously the mother of monsters, which made her grandmother to some of the most famous monsters of all time. On this channel, she goes beyond what was written to give her memories of what happened. We hope you enjoy and subscribe.